That's why it's crazy they got so mad at you, because you were like, I don't want to have sex with a man. And they were like, how dare you? I'm like, what do you mean, how dare you? Leave me alone, dude. I don't want to bang a dude.
You know, the part that got them really angry was that I said it would be homosexual. That was the part that made them really pissed. But it literally
would be.
Yes.
And that's not a drag on trans people.
Yes.
A trans woman is a male person. I got no beef. That's just, they're males. If you want to argue social constructs and all that stuff. Anyway, so for those that are like, what the hell is going on already? The context is, that was like this viral clip you had where this woman's like, you can't say that, that's wrong, or whatever, and like storms out. And
so she's Rage Quit Kiko, right?
Yes.
That's her name?
Yes.
Rage Quit Kiko.
What I didn't understand about that clip is, why is a biological woman out here caping for trans women?
Because she's
so
actually
hard. No. Do you think Kiko's trans?
Out of respect, she said she's a biological woman. I believe her.
Okay.
But I think the reason why they're like going to bat for it is because like this like leftist ideology of like, you have to defend all things LGBTQ. It's like a religion to them.
Yeah, it's a cult.
Yeah.
We were talking about this a lot this past week, the definition of wokeness. And it's like, this woman, everyone's like, oh, it's postmodernism, it's cultural Marxism, it's her Marcuse and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, that lady who wanted you to bang a dude does not know who any of those people are.
Yep.
Does not understand any of that ideology. All she knows is that she must say what she is told to say. And whatever the left is changes every year. Because like a couple of years ago, the whole thing was critical race theory. Now it's all about transgender. And the weirdest thing to me is that she got mad because you were just outright like, it would be homosexual for me to sleep with a male. And she's like, how dare you?
Yep.
Like, wait a minute, man. 10 years ago, we were all on board with the idea that you couldn't choose your sexuality. Now they're like demanding that you have sex with a male person.
I mean, now tolerance, which is what they think is the only Christian value, is who you have sex with.
That's the funny thing too. Like, you have to give someone else what they want, or you're bigoted. You're not allowed. You are not allowed to have your preferences. They are allowed to have theirs.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what I find interesting about that conversation too is if you watch the full podcast. So for the people listening, for context, we're talking about Whatever Dating Podcast, episode 33. And multiple times throughout that podcast, like I would say that I disagreed with something or come off as like judgmental. And she'd be like, and that's coming from the Christian man, as if Christians aren't allowed to pass any sort of judgment on degeneracy in culture. She kept trying to use that over and over again. She was like, really? As a Christian, you're going to say that it's homosexual? You're going to say that it's gay? That's fucked up, Chase. And it's like, look, it's literally what the Bible says.
It's so obtuse because like her only concept of Christianity, Christian moral compass,
is people just being walked all over. The moral precepts that we follow
is like, yes, being walked all over, being nice.
Yes, that's what they think Christianity is.
But it's all about being nice, being tolerant, and not having a problem with anybody else's actions.
But you guys are forgetting in Leviticus where it said that the Lord prescribeth you have sex with a man who looks like a woman. Right. And so that's a core moral value of Christianity.
That's what I told her. I quoted Genesis 5:2 where it says God made them male and female, right? Yeah. It says right there in Genesis 5:2, he made them male and female. He called them mankind. And then in Leviticus, it specifically says, if a man lies with a male as he would with a female, it is an abomination and detestable in the eyes of the Lord.
Well, they've even twisted that to say, well, actually, you know, if you look at this niche translation and interpretation, then it's actually referring to pedophilia, which even they condone now. But she is not interested in understanding what you believe as a Christian. She is interested in using it as a weapon against you.
You guys got it all wrong. If a man lies with a man as he would a woman, it's basically saying bros before hoes. Don't lie to your bros, dude. It's saying lie, not lies. Oh. It's like, you know, when you got the lady, you're going to lie to her and be like, yeah, me and the boys, we were just working all night and you're actually out bowling or whatever. It's saying like, you know, bros before hoes. That's what it's really saying. No, but that being said, I don't much care for, I don't think it's a legitimate argument that we follow all the rules and laws of Leviticus, because there's a ton of stuff in Leviticus nobody follows.
Well, it's also
Christians don't follow all of those rules.
Yeah,
it's part of the Mosaic Old Covenant. We're not supposed to follow all the rules.
Right. I don't much care for the religious component of it, but I get it. People do. My thing is more like, 10 years ago, the whole narrative was that you couldn't choose your sexuality. It was just, it is what it is. But now they're arguing if a dude looks like a chick enough, and it's like, look, man, I got to be honest. I got no beef with trans people. None whatsoever. But they'll call me transphobic anyway. Even when I'm like, live your life, do what you want to do as long as you're an adult or whatever. But I'm going to be honest. I don't believe there's a such thing as a passing trans person. I'm not saying to be mean.
I agree.
No,
like,
yeah.
There's a handful of trans people that many of us probably know, some that we're friends with, and I want to keep bringing up people's names, that very close to passing, but it's like,
yeah,
you know.
Well, the whole trans thing, what it's always been about is controlling how other people in society perceive you so that you can be treated a certain way. You know, if you're biologically male, you want to be understood and treated in society like a woman would be. It's always been about other people's perception of you, not just living your life in a vacuum. They have to control what other people say about them. It's always been that.
Let me clarify. I do think some trans people pass in that context. What I mean to say is I don't think there is a trans person that I would find attractive. That's just me personally. That's what I mean to say. Because I've certainly seen some like older trans people. And it's like when you get to a certain age, then it's kind of, you know, I've seen women with mustaches, you know what I mean? And then there are some trans people that are like very, very close to looking and acting just like a woman, but the voice is always different. The shoulders are always broader. The hips are always narrower.
And that's after you spend like tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on procedures to cosmetically change how you look.
Yeah, there's still that uncanny valley
Yeah.
where you look at the person and you're like, I know you're a dude.
Right. And again, like, I'm not saying this to be mean to anybody, but I'm also not going to lie to them. That's the weirdest thing. They want you to just lie to people. And that's one of the biggest issues. All of these, you had these detransition forums and you had these like transition opposition stuff where they're like, hey, don't do this to yourself. They're getting banned and shut down. So if kids are going online and the only thing they see is, it's great, it's the best thing in the world, everyone will be attracted to you, they're going to go for it. They're going to be like, but if they actually got to hear the detransitioner stories, the horrifying stories, they might reconsider it. There's a viral clip of this trans man, biological female, walking up to the camera. I did a segment about it. And they're like, I don't understand why I got misgendered. Like, I'm a man. Like, I think I look like a man. I even cut off my tits. And I'm like, I can tell you're female, dude. You have wide hips and you have an effeminate face and the ridge of like,
And the voice is unmistakable.
Unmistakably female.
The human brain just makes so many micro calculations when you look at somebody. You can't avoid knowing what biological sex they are. You're programmed to perceive that.
And sometimes it's not the case. Like there are circumstances where some guys or some women don't notice, but overwhelmingly,
maybe if the person was on puberty blockers in childhood.
Not even in that regard. Like I look at Jazz Jennings. And I'm like, I can tell that's a dude. It looks like a Jazz Jennings. And again, try to be very careful because I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, but I think Jazz just looks like a little boy. Does not look like an adult female human.
The problem there is like Jazz is one of the very first that they started pushing as a child activist, and so that people would watch this TLC show and think like this is normal. You know, these parents are just trying to let their kid live authentically to themselves. And it was one of the first that people started accepting. But the trans stuff is how a lot of people are going to start jumping off.
Jumping off what?
Yeah, jumping ship on this whole woke thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Like cutting off
we can
kids'
see
balls.
it happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that like now kids are being mutilated, there's a lot of people that are like, this is my line. Like if you keep pushing, people are going to get really, really mad.
Even with Jazz, like I don't think Jazz got the gender reassignment surgery, the bottom surgery, until turning 18.
17. Minor.
Okay, 17.
Jazz was a minor.
Well,
but even then, it's
and so
like
was Kim Petras.
Even if you wait until Kim Petras too. Even if you wait until 18 or closer to 18, you've still been groomed your entire life by your Munchausen's parents to think that this is normal. So it's not consensual.
That's my biggest beef with it. Like I debate people about the whole trans thing in Twitter Spaces all the time, and like the number one point I bring up is kids are so freaking impressionable, especially before the age of 10. And you've got all these like woke teachers in kindergarten and second grade that are telling kids about gender fluidity and all this stuff. And it's like, kids are almost a blank slate when they're at that young age. Like kids, I believed in Santa Claus until I was 8 years old. You know what I'm saying?
That's a long time.
Yeah. I was devastated when I found out he wasn't real. And my parents sold it really well. But like kids they're so impressionable at that young age, and they especially listen to authority figures. And when you have teachers telling you, yeah, like you can be a girl if you're a boy, or you can be a boy if you're a girl, they hear that. And it just like so deeply sinks into their mind, and it's very predatory behavior, in my opinion. And I think that's that's the biggest problem, is like then these kids hear that, and then they jump on hormones and stuff that like irreversibly changes their body and stunts puberty and all this stuff.
And they'll cope and they'll say, "Oh, the puberty blockers are reversible. It's all reversible. You're just spreading medical lies." Like. You're the one gaslighting everybody about it.
Yeah, there's crazy stuff like puberty block, like your kneecaps forming. If you don't have proper hormones, like bone formation and cartilage and
brain
formation.
formation.
People have breathing problems because their lungs didn't form properly and stuff.
Oh man, that's creepy.
Yeah, and people say that it's medical care. Like they need this medical care, which I think is complete BS. But I've heard that like
psychological care is what they need.
I agree. I've heard that, when kids go through these quote unquote therapies, these predatory therapies, it doesn't actually change like the suicide rates or like the rates of mental health issues. Like I read a statistic a couple weeks ago that like 80% of people in the trans community have dealt with like suicidal ideation, and like 40% of them attempt suicide at some point or another. And I've heard that these therapies and stuff like don't change